Woohoo.
Hey!
Hey everybody! We're so excited and honored to spend this time with you. And we're going to share stories of our past that shaped who we are today, right?
Yeah,
Which
okay.
is pretty cool. I'm Bill.
And I'm Robyn, and we've been married 22 years.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Pretty neat. So let's go back and show you a story that shaped who we are. Yeah, does that make sense?
Great.
I grew up on a lake, no neighbors, and my family was incredible, and they were really into sports. But I had a love for music, right? So I was kind of like, woo, the little kid, what's he doing playing the piano? So one day my mom took me for a walk when I was like 8 years old in the forest and said, Bill, sit down. Now here's the thing. You're going to do what you want to do in this life, and no one's going to tell you. We believe in you, so go for it. And I've carried that yes on with me for the rest of my life. It's been pretty amazing. I've had the opportunity, by the way, my family are, a lot of them are into education as principals and teachers, and they've given to kids. So I had that in me too. So I've given to millions of kids all over the world by using music and pulling them together, which has been awesome.
Yeah. Wow, great story, Bill. You know, the same for me is when I was 4, back in Australia, my cousin invited me to her ballet class. She stopped going. I stayed for the rest of my life. You know, I got into classical ballet companies, dance companies, and own my own dance company. And I got to really live my life just by the simple action, like Bill, of being able to say yes and. Yes and is, yes is the affirmative, and being the action. And I think both of us took action in going forward in our lives. And we really are very excited to be able to share with you how you can say yes and to your life. These 2 small, powerful words, saying yes to yourself and taking the action, translates to looking at the possibilities instead of the problems and being solution oriented. We're going to break it down into 3 areas that we believe that make up the yes and. The first one is being aware. Bill, do you want to tell a story about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's take you back when I was 18 years old, and I got the opportunity to tour the nation with Columbia artists in the top theaters, right? And it was a 2-hour concert, a performance, singing, dancing, acting. And because I was new, did the least in the show, and I was scared to death with all these incredibly knowledgeable, talented artists. And in it, what happened was, it ran for 3 months, and I just sat at the rehearsal and took it all in and took pictures in my brain and learned every note that everybody sang, every step, and all the blocking and everything. And so what happened was, on the tour, anytime someone was injured or was sick or couldn't be there for some reason, I would raise my hand, step in, and do that part. Well, I got to do almost every solo in the 2-hour show in the matter of those 3 months. Now, the next September, the company came together and they're going to do the show one more time, kind of do it again. And the director couldn't be there that day. And the producer goes, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Does anybody have any idea? And I raised my hand. I said, hey, I know the show. I know what everybody does. I know all the notes and all the steps. He said, okay, go for it. So I blocked this 2-hour show on the spot. Then the producer took me for a walk outside behind the building. He said, well, do you want to continue doing that? And I said, sure. And he says, your 4 years are covered in college. Good luck, buddy. Amazing. And that tells you, it told me right then at 18 years old, it's really important to be aware.
Around the same time in my life at 18, I was in the Australian Ballet Company as a young member. And we got the opportunity to work with one of the most famous Russian choreographers and dancers of the time, Rudolf Nureyev. And he mounted this amazing production of Don Quixote. Well, being a young dancer, I was only in the quarter ballet. So I stayed in every rehearsal, watched, looked, listened, learned everything that I could. And there was about a week before we opened at the Sydney Opera House, there was an opportunity to start the ballet with a whole acting scene. And at that time, it hadn't been cast. And Rudolf Nureyev asked the whole company and said, does anybody want to try this? Does anybody want to go for this? And I put my hand up and said, yes, I do. And I went for it, and I worked with some of the senior dancers in the opening scene. And I can tell you that it was that moment of recognizing, of being aware of what the whole scene was, about the whole ballet, and just taking it, trusting myself to be able to say, yes, I can do this. That really changed my life and the trajectory of my life as I went forward. So that definitely is one of the key components of success and part of the yes and.
All right, the next step is to trust yourself, right?
Yeah, trusting yourself, trusting the truth inside, and believing you've got it.
And as you can tell, we love stories.
Yeah.
So, started, like I told you, when I was 18 and did this, and for the next 20 years, toured all over the world, never was home. Busy, 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 busy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was amazing, right? But then I finally realized that, no, there's something missing. And I realized I needed to stop. And what it was, that there wasn't one person in my life that was special that I would become a team with that would change my life. And I finally stopped and said, it's gonna happen really soon. I can feel it. I'm gonna slow down, right? And all of a sudden I went to a program that I just love, a dance festival. And I thought, I'm gonna see this very soon, it's gonna happen. And I walked into the dance festival, and I walked into this room, and there she was, a lady in all white, a vision. It almost felt like a light was behind her. And I thought, there it is. And now my life's gonna change. And I finally found what I've been looking for. Ta-da! I knew.
Well, it's amazing because, at that time, I was in Australia with my own dance company, 40 years of age. And I'd gone through kind of some pretty painful time in that last years. I'd gone through a really bad divorce. And so there's a lot of things happening that I felt like wow, what is happening? And I always know that I have to trust myself and trust my own truth. And I had some opportunities to come to the United States. And when I did, it was the right thing. I met Bill, and I had to leave behind my family, my company, my life, all my friends. And yet I know that as hard as that was, I knew I had to trust myself, and I did, and I went forward. And it's been the greatest decision, the best decision ever. And so we really truly believe that, when you're at that moment when you have to make a decision, because this is the real, you have to say yes to yourself and you have to take the action. And that is when you say, yes, I believe in myself. I trust myself. Yeah.
Yeah, there's friends there's people, there's family that you can talk to, but the bottom line, it's deep in your soul, and you're the one that knows what's best for your life, and you need to follow that.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, now the third and final step is going forward, right? That is so important, and that's a great thing to learn. We've tried that in our life, through all these years. Don't go in the past. Things that were trouble, don't let them run you. Go forward and use your heart and soul and go do what you really love and want to do on this earth. You know what I mean? We think back in my past, last 10 years, my mentor passed on the organization to me, which was amazing, but it was a lot of work, but it was amazing, and I learned so much. In the midst of it, I got cancer. And that was pretty intense. I don't know how much longer I'll be on this earth, but I was a fighter, and I don't think you're given more than you can handle. You can make things work, and I just believed and went forward, and I'm here, and I'm ready to live this life for some more time,
Yeah. And last year, the global pandemic, look at that. Everything changed for us. Our job stopped. We moved across the country. And you know what? Both of us said, we can't stop. We have to go forward.
Yeah.
And we started our own company, and we're going forward, bringing our hearts, our souls, as Bill said, and going forward, not looking back at the setbacks, but they're set ups for us to go forward and be great and succeed. And we believe that for you. So, go forward with all your dreams too.
True. A beautiful story. I love telling stories, and a beautiful story that my founder had just a very few days left to be on this earth. And so I went over to his home just to be there with him. And when I walked up, he was asleep in a chair. And right when I walked up, he opened his eyes and grabbed my hand and wanted me to come in close. And then he just looked at me beautifully with his heart and soul and said, "The world needs you." And then he pulled back and then he closed his eyes. And that's the last time that I heard him speak or got to see him. And so I just really want to carry that on the rest of my life. That and what it is I realized he's really talking about you, all of us. He's talking about we all should go do what we're on this earth to do, and we're needed right now. You'll do such great things. Just believe in yourself. And as we said, yes, and go and do it.
Yes, we believe in you. Go forward. We can't wait to hear your great success stories. And I hope we inspired you. And we want to hear all your great stories. So go for it. And we believe in you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.